Coming in hot, 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 Lisa shares her financial tips and strategies to build wealth, have fun with finances, and be debt-free without having a restrictive budget. From bankrupt to millionaire, Lisa knows what it's like to feel as if you're living paycheck to paycheck. Her unconventional money multiplier system is the very wealth protocol that enabled her to retire 2.5 years early, pay down $100,000 of debt in 6 months, and move to her dream home at the beach. Hey, thanks for tuning in. Be sure to rate the show, give us some love. We would love your review. And remember, it doesn't matter how much money you make, it's what you do with it. And some words of advice: pay yourself first. Are you ready to partner with money? Go check out the money dating game at idatemoney.com and choose your partner. We hope you always get the date you want.
Which finished to be the SAA marketing coach. My offer is basically related to supporting online businesses to get more online clients using AI-powered marketing tools. And I'm really grateful to Nicole that she's helped me to formulate it in such a beautiful manner. So happy to serve always.
I love that. And we can see a lot of your work right here in the Big Unicorn group. So, and if you're watching this on replay over on the Money Talk show on YouTube, head on over to Unicorn Attractions Only. Get into that group and check it out. We'll put the link in the show notes for those watching on replay. Sarah, introduce yourself. Tell us all the things.
All right. Hey, Lisa and Betty. Great to see you guys on the call. Wonder World. Hello, audiences. I feel like it's like, we're addressing everyone here. My name is Sarah. I am the founder of Elevate Designs Co. And we offer luxury branding for established entrepreneurs looking to elevate in their current space or niches. And so really what we do is we take that brand junk drawer that you have, that drawer, right? It's like you got the freebies and you've got some logos and you've got a couple Canva templates and program workbooks and Lord knows what else stuffed in there. And every time somebody asks, they're like, hey, send something over. You're like, oh my God, what do I send? That's what we do. We go in there, we tidy it all up, we make it all cohesive. We really unify it with your brand message, what you stand for, what you stand against, and create a really polished forward-facing product that justifies the prices you are charging in this high ticket space. So that's a really great summary. I don't know. Any other questions?
Well, I love it. I love how you call it a junk drawer, because I see like a lot of my clients will kind of make their own little graphics and design for like their signature offer, their memberships or whatever. And they're like, oh, what do you think? And I'm like, do I give you my honest opinion, or do I refer you to, like my graphic, my brand, my logo designer, Sarah? And, it's great, A for effort, but, you have to really think this is not everyone's skill set. And I personally don't have the gift to do any kind of design whatsoever. I draw really good stick figures and I can do some waves, but the way your minds work to create this beautiful masterpiece, that it's not just colors and shapes, it's just a reflection of who we are as a person and how we want to show up in the world. And it speaks magic. And it's so, it just, like I shared, pre-show, like, I look at my logo, I look at my brand colors, and I'm like, oh, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be. And and it means everything. And when I explain my logo to people, they're like, wow, that's so cool. It has so much meaning. And I'm like, yeah, it represents me completely. So when you think about, the importance of branding, why is it important, and how does it generate income for an entrepreneur? We'll start with you, Betty.
You scared me asking this question now, because I thought, okay, Sarah will tell everything about the general branding and I will add a sparkle. And now I'm like, no.
Betty, you've got this. You've got this. I've seen your stuff. You know what you're talking about.
Oh, of course, joking. When it comes to branding, we all know that brand is very important, because this is one of the criteria we follow to choose whom we purchase from. So basically, this is one of the roles of branding. Additionally, it simplifies the choice for a client. Imagine yourself when you enter the store and you go there to buy the mineral water. Which one do you pick? some random one, or the one that has the cheapest price, or maybe the one that you like the most. And this is the essence of why we use branding, to shorten the decision-making process for our clients, to justify high prices, and additionally to add the emotional sparkle that we have in our souls as entrepreneurs. I don't know if I reflected it well, Sarah.
I love it. You've done great, Betty.
Well, thank you for that. I appreciate that. Sarah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Betty hit the nail on the head. I always say that it is how we influence the buying decision, which is exactly what Betty has so beautifully summarized. I wanted to touch on the water point specifically because I have a very specific example here that I think is hilarious. So for those of you who don't know, some of you in this audience do, I'm currently residing in Mexico. And so obviously I'm a Canadian that is moved borders here, and products are different, things are different. I mean, stores look different. There's an element of this is not what I grew up for the last 29 years with, right? And I had a friend visiting last week, and we just doing normal life things. We went to the market, went to the supermarket, whatever. We're doing shopping around. I know exactly what product this girl was going to pick up off the shelves. She didn't speak the language. She doesn't know what the labels say, but I could tell you as we were walking up and down these aisles exactly which organic, hippy dippy health food product she was going to pull off the shelf, simply because of how the packaging looked, simply because of what the brand presented forward facing. She had no idea, like literally no idea. She's like, "What's this?" I knew you were going to grab that. So if that's not a totally perfect example of what branding does, it's really speaking to that specific person in the marketplace, having them literally reach out and grab your thing because they know that that's for them, just based on how it looks, how it feels, and the whole vibe around it.
Yeah, and that is so true. I went and saw my hairdresser yesterday, and she never carried product, and now since she has product, and she had all these colorful bottles with like little squares of all these different colors that popped, and I was like, "Oh, what's that product?" She's always for straight hair girls. I'm like, "Darn those straight hair girls! I like the packaging over there." But it immediately caught my eye when I walked in because it was just so fun and vibrant, and so definitely. I definitely have shopped by, color codes when I walk through the stores, like, oh, what's catching my eye? What's popping?
100%.
So there's a lot of truth to that. Yeah. So how do you think having a strong brand sets a business apart from its competitors? We'll let you go first, Sarah.
Oh, now the spotlight's on, eh? How does having a strong brand set itself apart from competitors? That was the question?
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, kind of literally what I just touched on, right? It's like, what is going to influence that buying decision? You're looking at a product, program, service, right? I mean, they sell wealth management, I'll pick on your niche that we're in your audience, right? Wealth management. But this one focuses on maybe a particular strategy, or maybe they have certain values that they uphold in terms of, how to, and I'm not familiar with wealth management, but how to manage the wealth, what kind of investments you use, what kind of savings portfolio you have, what kind of, I think I mixed up those words, but you know what I mean? Whereas over here might be more of donating and getting tax write-offs and literally maximizing corporate America and capitalism at its finest, right? Whereas here it might be more like the small business and how can you give back and help the community and all of these things. And as a consumer, you can look at this and go, well, yeah, like I go capitalism, like I'm going to pick this person over here. Well, someone's like, you know what? I just want a healthy, happy family, take care of myself. You might pick letter A. Or you might say, you know what, I'm really community focused. I live in a small town. Like my whole family has grown up here, all the things. This is super valuable to me. I'm going to pick this small town, more community oriented wealth management coach because that's what aligns with my values, right? And so, of course, we've been talking a lot about the visuals and, packaging or what a logo looks like or whatever. But ultimately, it's all the messaging that is rooted behind that, right? Just as I'm saying this, I can picture what a capitalist corporate America logo is going to look like versus small town wealth management, right? And so really understanding that and then using that to communicate to your audience, really, what do you stand for? What do you stand against? And why is your wealth management offer different than everybody else's, right? Help influence that decision. Does that make sense? Did that even answer the question? I rambled.
No, it absolutely answered the question beautifully. And you're so right, because, we're visiting our hometown, and, we love pizza, and you get a great pie in upstate New York. And there's several different restaurants that we could choose from. And we decided to go with Pontillo's. And a couple of our friends were like, well, why didn't you go here? I'm like, well, because this is why we like Pontillo's. And, there's nothing fancy about either one of them. There's nothing, it's just the fact that we know, like, we like their sauce, we like the way that their dough is, and we like their pepperoni. And there was this big difference of opinion about the pepperoni on the pizza. And it's like, okay, you have your preference, I have mine. I'm going here, I bought the pizza, I get to choose. We don't get this kind of pie, in Florida. So knowing that like everyone has their own little, like, the sub niche, like as Nicole teaches us, is what is your specialty, what makes you stand out, what's your flavor. And I love that. So my flavor is profit gold audits, which are absolute gold. It's just like dropping coins everywhere to find more money in your business. So awesome answer, thank you so much. Betty, what's your viewpoint on that?
I was thinking when Sarah was speaking about the examples, and I will not dare touching wealth management because I'm totally green as a grass about this topic, so I'm not gonna touch it at all. But I will tell you at the personal example, because nowadays we are living in the reality where building personal brands is equally important, or I would even risk saying more important than building corporate brands. Which means beside building your business, we build our personal brands. This is why we have our names on the Zoom call presented beautifully in the corner or in the title, so that you build this connection between, oh, perfect. So wealth, Lisa, brand design, Sarah, AI, Betty. And additionally, I wanted to support it with a personal example because I never use aromatherapy to wealth and to analyzing my financial situation. And I thought, like, this is the weirdest thing I've ever heard. The first time I heard about you and what you're doing. But lately I'm experimenting with different things, doing all the things, learning and growing. And I will give it a shot, and I'll show you something. I bought myself this candle and I use it. So in the future, when I'm going to think about doing something related with my finances, optimizing finances, finding money in the most unexpected places, I would say, after some meditations with you, I know I will go to Lisa because she is an expert, because I trust her, because I know her, because I like her face and I like her voice, I like her accent, which is extremely important for me as a consumer. So we tend to speak about those big concepts like ideal client, like our perfect niche, or something like that. We all experts start with that because we have to start somewhere, right? But at the end of the day, what Sarah beautifully exposed, we start thinking about the set of values that we share, a set of emotions that we want to evoke in our clients. And this is this dance between the reality and the supercharged emotions and thoughts and connotations that we have with brands. Does it answer your question at all, Lisa?
Oh yeah. Yeah, and that specifically, like, yeah, what else do you bring to the table as part of your brand? Like my signature thing is the aromatherapy, and using the power of scent to accelerate our thoughts. It works in all niches, right? Because our thoughts are the most powerful tool that we have. And like you said, the first thing when you look at something, like we see with our eyes, but we automatically get a thought like, oh, I love that, or what is that? I'm so confused. And, we get this reaction, and then that turns into that feeling, and it turns into the action, and then we get the result we want. And it all begins with just seeing something that represents something that we want to go after. So I love that. I love that example that you used. And I love that you bought a candle. That's amazing.
It is very helpful, very helpful. You were right, absolutely. And I must tell you, you told me that we will find $500 in some of part of your journey. I found 700. So basically, Lisa, you're a change maker.
Well, that's awesome. See what happens when you pay attention? It's just a small investment of time so you can multiply your money. And when you think about that for your brand and your graphics, and like every time I do a post on Facebook and I think, okay, what would be a perfect graphic? And I always think of like I want like gold coins are my thing, right? So if you lady, I know Sarah, have you read the book The Richest Man in Babylon yet?
I think I
No, we
have.
talked
No.
about that like 2 years ago.
Did we?
Yeah, you're like, whatever.
You know how many books are on my shelf unread? Because like anytime somebody recommends one, I'm like, yeah, and I buy it and it goes on the bookshelf. Like my library is great.
Well, check that one out. But when we think about it, like, the gold coins in that book, gold coins just multiply. And every time I think of like, the brand, gold coins, like you think of the chocolate candies and you think of all the gifts that are out there, is that how you say it, gifts? And it just like it represents all this money like being all over. And like coins were so popular, and then like dollars seemed to be easier because they weren't so heavy and all of that. But like keeping those images up front and creating that and saying like, yeah, this is it. It's just like the money dating team, right? The 7 archetypes. They all have their own little personality. That would be really cool to see them in AI, huh?
You know where I am, like always.
That would be really cool. All right. The next question for you all, entrepreneurs out there are dying to know, how can businesses quantify the return on investment, or ROI, of branding initiatives? And the reason why we're asking this question is because so many entrepreneurs, especially those that are just starting out, like when would be the right time to invest in branding? When would they be able to see the ROI in their investment? So Betty, you can go first on this one.
I felt it. Um, I will start with the short story. When I started working at university, my first subject that I was teaching there was market research, and I genuinely hated it. But at the same time, I learned that return on investment and defining the ROI and showing ROI for businesses is extremely important, because we want to know, if we pay $1 for something, will we get at minimum this $1 back? Okay. So when we are thinking about the advanced metrics, you can always use ChatGPT or Google and say, find me KPIs for this, and it will show you many information about it. But the most important example that I can share with you when it comes to return on investment on my stuff is the number of people who stop the scroll, who like, who engage, and who comment, and then buy your offer. So basically, this is the metric that I use with my clients, at least for now. Because if you are more into numbers, of course you can use coefficient and calculate everything and use the data-driven marketing, and it's so fascinating. It's so cool. I even I'm blushing and flashing and thinking about it. But for branding, the most important part is, how strong is your brand? When people hear your name and your surname together, do they know who you are? So I think that this is the best answer from me when it comes to personal brands and using AI for this purpose.
Yeah. It's like every time we see unicorns, who do we think of?
100% always.
And I know quite a few coaches that use the unicorn messaging, but I don't think of them first. I think of Nicole first. So it's really, really super powerful. Sarah, your viewpoint on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, again, considering the audiences that we are streamed into here and it's entrepreneur land, this is going to be a different answer than if I'm talking and doing a brand audit here at a larger corporation, right? Obviously the metrics are going to change, and obviously the budgets are going to change as you climb that ladder, and the amount of effort and the team behind the brand is going to grow and change. And so, talking at these grassroots and at this base level, you've illustrated it beautifully. Look at Nicole's brand, look at the group that we are currently streaming into live, and I mean that entire group, it's less than what 4 years old approximately, plus or minus, right? A couple months.
Yeah.
I think we just had the 4th birthday. And and I mean, it's formed such a strong brand that when we talk about unicorns, heck, when we talk about Wonder Woman still, right? The Wonder Woman oh, what's the word?
Concept, image.
Concept, icon, whatever, character, if you will. I mean, that's been out of the brand for years now. I mean, as soon as the brand started to take off, the brands shifted messaging because we don't want to infringe on copyright and do all of those things. And so but still, like when you talk Wonder Woman, when you talk unicorns, when I say golden unicorn poop or butthole or any of these things, like we're not thinking anything except the context of this arena, right? And so that is a really strong metric of looking at, is your brand working or not? Now I can already hear the but Sarah, like I'm brand new. How can I get to that point, or how can I measure it pre for your birthday where everybody knows what a unicorn or butthole is, right? Like, and I mean, the ultimate answer here, I'm going to say, is who are you pulling in? Who are you attracting? What kind of positive or negative feedback, right? Like feedback loops, but what kind of feedback are you getting in terms of the clientele that you are bringing into the business? Is it aligned where they're coming in, the sales feel relatively, easy, minimal objections, those sorts of things, and it's like yes, 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 and the sale happens? Or it's like, no, can you offer this, or maybe can we stretch that, or can you do this, or right? And then there's price point objections, I mean, number one, but also objections to methodology, or maybe the deliverables, or perhaps where the course is posted, or how you would like insert objection here. Any of those objections, if you're getting bombarded with objections, it's a really good key that branding and messaging is missing the mark. You're pulling the wrong people in. And so at those early levels, that's really a key indicator, is your messaging, is your brand, right? When we're talking branding, it's not just the visuals, is all of that in alignment in order for that conversion to happen. Like Betty mentioned, a conversion can be a click, a conversion can be a like, it can be a comment, it can be a land on the sales page, it can be a buy through the sales page. But those are the metrics we want to look at in those early stages.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense?
Can I add something? Can I add one word? Can I add one
Betty.
word?
Absolutely.
Just one.
You can do
Just
more
one.
than one.
Because you asked also, I think, when should we start building our brands, right?
Yeah.
And Sarah, shouldn't we start at the very first moment that we say, yeah, we are entrepreneurs?
I thought you were going to say, are you going to slide into my DMs and say, can you make me a logo? I was going to say, no. But yes, absolutely. I mean, like I said, there's tiers. When we're talking about a large Fortune 500 corporation, which is actually where I personally got my start in all of this. I mean, that we've got a full national marketing team behind us, and that reinforces that brand image. But it doesn't start with a national marketing team. No, it really starts with, what does the company stand for? What are their values? What is the value proposition? Why is this company, the corporate America company different than the mom and pop shop company? Like what are those value things? That in and itself, and how you articulate that in your content, in your delivery, in your marketing, that's all part of the brand. And of course, we can get into the personal stuff too. What are your personal values? What is your personal belief system? What guides you personally, right? Are you the kind of person that's going to go buy the private jet? Or are you the kind of person that's going to go and build a tiny town of homes for affordable housing? Like, what are you doing with the money? Lisa, I know we've had this conversation on Monday, right? And so really looking at these things, I mean, these are all decisions that should be aligning, that you should be aligning with all your business decisions too, right? It's like, does this fit this image, this brand, this direction?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I love that addition there, because it's so important, and it gets you thinking about, okay, where am I? And I know when I opened up my doors to my online world, I created a Pinterest board and said, okay, what do I want my business to look like? And I have my clients go through this, and it's a powerful exercise, because, brick and mortars need to put all this into place. Like, I don't know how many entrepreneurs are out there, like, raise your hand, put it in the comments. Do you have a business financial plan in place before you start selling your offer? Do you know, like, your core values, your direction, like who you're serving? And I don't know how many clients, because I do both business and personal finances, and I don't know how many clients want to make that shift from 9 to 5 into entrepreneurial land, and they want to serve everybody. They're talking to the masses, and it's just like you can't talk to the masses, just like you can't use like 7 different colors and 4 different fonts in your logo, and some of the logos I see are like, okay, they're self-made, right? I'm going to go into Canva and I'm going to use one of their templates. And I actually, when I first came online, I was taught how to do this. I was going to pull my hair out. I was like, what? Even using the Canva graphics was very challenging. And I had like my favorite color is blue. Okay, let's put blue in there. I didn't know that like you just can't have one color logo. I mean, I guess you can, but really, is it going to speak out? Is it going to say what you really want it to say, and understanding the psychology behind it? And I know the second time I had my logo made, so the first time someone did it for me because they just decided they wanted to see if it was their thing, their niche, and they were exploring. And I liked it. And then the second person was just like, I went on a podcast and they like pulled my brand apart on their podcast and like redid, like wanted to talk about like the colors. And I was just like, what? I have no idea about colors and psychology. I just wanted something to slap on my website, I didn't have no idea that there's so much background to it and building. And if you think about it, we all buy from emotion and we have this relationship, and our business is our baby. Like it comes from conception to adulthood. And a lot of us and our listeners aren't, they're still like at the toddler stage, and they're starting to go into the adolescence, and then we go backfire. Like, my youngest is 26, my oldest is 38. And so when I was thinking about raising my kids and raising I Date Money, I'm like, there are a lot of similarities with the different personalities and the talk back and, the silent treatment. And I'm like, okay, this is where we're going with this brand. So it's very, very powerful. So I love that how you both just brought that all together and highlighted that. So for those of you listening, what questions do you have? Throw them in the chat and I'll see if we can answer them before our time is up. But our next question.
Lisa, can I just touch on something you mentioned there with the logos? You mind?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So it's interesting, guys. I get it. I 100% get it. You started a business and you want a logo because exactly what Lisa said. You want to put something on your website. You want to make a business card or whatever. Understand, right? Awareness that, that putting a logo on your website isn't going to bring sales. It's not going to get clients, but it's going to make you feel a feeling. So if you want to feel that feeling, please, by all means. But what I wanted to bring the awareness here, what I wanted to say was, I was watching this TikTok, I don't know, a couple weeks ago, and this girl comes on and she does logo redesign, right? And I love watching these things because I'm like, oh, I learn refresh my skills, right? TikTok's a great platform for that. And she designed this logo and I was like, wow, this looks so good. And I opened the comment section, as you do, right? You're lurking, seeing what other people think. And everyone was like, oh my God, I hate it. The other one was so much better, blah, 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 blah. And I'm reading and I'm trying to understand. I'm like, why don't people like the redesign over the original, right? And to put into context, the original was like one of those Canva ones, right? With the watercolor background and the script font with the circle, like we all know what it looks like, right? And so I was like, why do they like that one over this one? I'm like, this one looks like a business. This one looks like a company. This one looks like established. It has product. And I saw a comment and it goes, well, that one looks like a mom and pop shop. I can probably afford it. The other one looks like it's a company and I'm not going to be able to afford it. And immediately I was like, wow. Like, I'm like, that's exactly it. I said, it's okay that your logo looks expensive. What's your brand? Are you do you want the mom and pops? Do you want the bargain hunters? Do you want the people who just want those things? Or are you looking to attract a bigger, wider audience who has a budget, who's looking for something specific, looking for a solution to their problems and is willing to pay for it, right? Like a company, you're going to go into Walmart. You're not expecting to haggle with the salespeople and to get the best deal. No, like you go in and you buy whatever the price is listed at, right? So what kind of business do you want to run? And it was so apparent that it was like people just said, I like the other one better because it looks like I could afford it. And I was like, isn't that interesting, right? Isn't that interesting? So if you are a business, you're selling high ticket, all the things, you could inadvertently be cheapening your brand by using that Canva logo. Just a thought.
Wow. Yeah. And a very important one too, because we don't really when we see something, we look at it and we have our own opinion, but what does our unicorn client think about it? Yeah. Like, what do they see? What do they feel? And that leads beautifully into my next question. Yes. So what role does branding play in creating an emotional connection with customers? So let's expand more on that. Betty, you can start.
Um,
Oh, did we lose her?
it's very interesting. Hey, are we there?
I think we're here.
We're there. Yeah,
You
I think
scared
my
me. Like,
internet,
is she there?
my internet went off to space.
No, those were the AI ghosts saying, "No, you're not going to tell this. Don't you dare."
Spill the secrets.
When you ask about the impact that branding has and all the stuff, I believe that the most important thing to remember is that we are in different stages of businesses, as Sarah mentioned before, and I think that we sometimes miss the mark when we define the brand. And I believe we agree about that. So don't think, oh no, she's not right. Because when I say that we start building the brand from the very first moment that we show up, I also mean the customer experience and delivery. So once we get our first clients, trust me, everything changes 100%, like 180 degrees. And why I'm saying that? Because having the pleasure to serve lately around 30 clients with AI supercharged pictures, my skill set kind of skyrocketed because I started speaking with people and they told me, can I have the purple beret instead of blue beret? And I hate Photoshop, okay? I know that in Photoshop it would be like, okay, it's cool, it's clear. So you mark this, you change colors, it works. But for someone who doesn't like Photoshop that much, changing colors is not easy at all. Or adding additional people, showing this. And I'm saying about it because when we start thinking about branding, we need to remember and think that when we start with values and when we lead with results, which we all agree that it's important, then building the brand is a natural consequence of what we are doing. And regardless of the things that we use, if we use Canva or just simple text, I don't know if you agree with me, Sarah, but I think that in some cases, it's easier at the very beginning to create the name of business written with one font instead of playing with colors and showing different shades and blues and purples and pinks and yellows and all the stuff together in one picture and saying, oh, this is it. It's beautiful. My first logo was created by artificial intelligence, no surprise. And I don't think it's very beautiful. I don't think it was, established brand and so on. But I created it with this tool. I'm not going to say it because I don't know if I'm allowed to say it, so I'm not going to share it. If you want to know, it's very cheap, so just DM me. I'll send you the link. But basically, this is for the beginners so that they have something that looks almost like a logo. And the simpler it is, the clearer it is, the neater it is, especially in the very beginning, the better it looks. So once you earn a lot of money, then you go to different people asking a lot less more when you decide you are ready. Then you go to some amazing, beautiful graphic designer and say, listen, I need to look professional, or I need to look familiar, or I need to look AI. And then he or she is going to support you in this decision.
I love that. And
Completely
when you
agree.
think about that, it's so true because we think like we want to make it stand out. So we'll add more colors, we'll add different fonts, we'll make something like, oh, like, if it has a specific word, we'll try to find an image that goes with that word and then create it that way. And it's like, no. And I think if you spend more than like 15 minutes doing it, it's not your cup of tea. You need to go find someone to do it for you. That's my
100%.
viewpoint. Sarah.
I will say a branding deck takes me a lot longer than 15 minutes, but I regress.
Oh, I know. But I know, but like our time is really precious, right? And I know that's not my skill set. So why am I going to
100%.
spend all this time doing it?
100%.
Because a lot of, and all I hear is, but I can't afford that. That's not in my budget. Well, one, do you have a budget? And two, you can't afford it because you're giving up all your free time to do this. And then it's not doing what it's supposed to do because it's not making people, it's not attracting your right, your ideal client, right? So you've wasted all this time and energy. You slapped it all over your website, everywhere, your Facebook pages, and then you're like, I'm not getting any clients. I don't have any money. Okay, well, let's start with the logo that you made that isn't attracting anybody. Just gonna put that out there.
Lisa, tell us how you really feel. I
I know I'm getting assertive in my old age.
It's so interesting. I had a call with I was onboarding a new client this morning, and she's doing like one of my larger packages. We've got a lot going on for her. And she's done $1 million. She hit her first $1 million after, I think, just under 4 years in business. So like she's on a great track and she's doing really well. And she does a little bit of business coaching in the spiritual realm as well. And she, we're talking about her branding, right? Stand for, stand against, all these things. And she goes to me, I was asking, I said, who are not your clients, right? Like and she goes, I don't understand. Why are people coming to me with no budget to start a business saying they want to start a business? She's like, do people not realize that there are startup costs involved? Like, right. And she's like, is this in my messaging? She's like, I just don't get it. Right. And so, I mean, Lisa, like, this is definitely like a wheelhouse here thing with you, myself, Betty, like in the thing, it's like, guys, you need a budget to start a business. I mean, you're going to have some output. Now, whether that is in branding, if you want to hire someone like myself or someone like Lisa to maybe set up a budget for you. I don't know, Lisa, that's part of your profit goals stuff, but whatever it might be, but it's like, guys, you got to understand you're going to be spending money, whether it's on software or whether it's on service providers or whether it's on education or maybe a combination of all of it. I mean, you're going to start a restaurant, you're going to have to buy glassware. You're going to have to buy liquor. You're going to have to pay a staff. Why is that any different? We just have a different medium for our business, but there's still costs associated with it, right? Nothing in this life is free if that's,
And
Exactly.
building your brand requires investment and it creates an asset in your business. So using the financial terms. So basically it's a kind of investment. So the money you spend are going to come back to you. But I remember
100%.
that Seth Godin once said something, and he said that when you're trying to measure the instant results from your brand, then you're missing the mark. You don't understand branding.
Yeah.
Because branding is an investment.
100%. And I mean, you're totally right, Betty. I, watched my language there around it, costs and sunken costs and investments and all the things. But I mean, it's just a part of it, right? And so, Lisa, I mean, to circle back to your original question here and just remind me, I believe it was what does branding play into an emotional connection with customers? Is that correct? Was that the question? Yeah.
Yes.
Right. And so back to literally, I think the first words out of Betty's mouth. I mean, it's an emotional decision. Ultimately, when we are buying something, it's because we are feeling something, we want something, we desire this experience on the other side of it. So if we're buying a coaching program or a service, right, we're going to have some kind of transformation and we desire that feeling, right? You buy clothes, you put them on, you feel good wearing them, you like the feeling, you like how you look, all the things. It's an emotional experience naturally. I mean, life is just full of emotion, right? If we were constantly happy, then that's the only emotion. I mean, what is it to be human then? We're getting into this philosophical mess of a conversation. I could talk about it all night. Anyone want to hit me up? Let's go. But the point is, it's like, Betty, does, AI, and this is, we get into it all, but it's like AI and like emotion, right? You've got to feed the emotion. You've got to feed the human into AI, right? And so what does branding have to do? You've got to infuse that with the emotion, because ultimately that's what's going to shape the buyer, that's going to shape that persona, and they're going to, like attracts like, right? You're going to attract it in when you infuse that emotion, that experience with the brand. So I think that answers the question. I always do that. I'm always like, did it come out?
I know. Sometimes when I'm on a podcast interview, it's like, did I get that question right? Because I tend to go off on, but there's so much information and there's so many different paths that you can take. And when you think about that emotional connection and like the DIYers out there is like who I'm really addressing, is because you want your business, do you really want your business to thrive and to go forward and to attract the clients so that you can serve? And we talk about the money and the investments, and definitely like connecting with, your brand, your logo, creating that asset that you have, because this is your, like, there's logos that have been around since day one. Like as the company has evolved, they don't ever change their logo. And Sarah, you would probably know off the top of your head some that have been around for years and years, but like Nike comes to mind, right? And even when I remember when Michael Jordan came on board and they created Air Jordan and they wanted a different logo because they wanted to set that apart from the Nike brand. But we all know that Air Jordan is Nike. We know it's the same company, but just distinguishing that piece of it. And when we think about some of the other you were talking about the mom and pops and stuff. There's a place in Tampa called Mama's Kitchen, and they have a lion as a logo, and they have an explanation of it on their menu, because why do you have a lion as a mom and pop restaurant? And it had to do with the guy's upbringing and his beliefs, and he just loved it so much, and it's been open since like 1950 something, and it's still the same logo. And it's really cool that was an alignment with him. And, really understanding like the psychology behind it is so important, but how is it going to make somebody feel? And that brings me to our last question. When you buy something from somebody, when you choose to make an investment, and when you're working in the coaching industry, when you're doing entrepreneurial work, you're providing services and products. I don't care what it is that you're selling. People are investing in you. They're investing in that thing that you have, because they have the results that you want that shortcut. And so it's not just buy my thing. It's no, I want you to invest in this. I want you to have this experience, and of course, at the end of the day, we all want to make money, but that's not really what we're after. What we're after is that dopamine hit that makes us feel like, wow, I used my gifts and talents to help this person. And to me, that's the best feeling of that energy, of that money. It's the on top of the world feeling. It's walking on rainbows and sun clouds, and you're in awe, right? It's just so splendid and so beautiful. So when you think about that emotional connection and how it gets customers to come back, what's the key? Like if somebody was, thinking about their business, like, maybe they've been on the entrepreneurial world for like 2 or 3 years, and they're like, okay, I really want to focus on my business. I want to make the shift. I want to brand myself. I want repeat customers. How can I incorporate that back into my business so that I can get my customers to be repetitive, to continue to invest? And more importantly, referrals are my best friend, to send me referrals. So we'll go with you, Betty. You can go first on that one.
Again?
I figured I would throw you off because you were like watching patterns.
Damn.
A little twist in there.
You got me. When it comes to creating repetitive buying decisions in our clients and sending referrals, I think that brand and strong brand is extremely important. And if you listen to people related to different audiences and podcasts and so on, Alex Hormozi is speaking beautifully about it, because he says that in the very initial steps, you should provide your services at a reasonable discount, considerable discount, or even for free, because in the very beginning, you have no idea what you're doing. And after some clients, you raise your prices, and this is the pattern everywhere. You raise your prices because this is the result of your expertise. So thinking about referrals, when some people tell you, or giving you a real example, I was speaking with my client, I don't know, 2 hours ago, 3 hours, something like that. And I prepared for her some AI pictures with her face, of course, as you usually do, And she was looking at those pictures, and I felt that this is the one that she's going to choose, like 100%. I feel her vibes, he feel her energy. She described it a little bit different, but I created this as a bonus picture. So yeah. And she saw different photos, and she said, oh my God, this feels like me. And I thought, yeah. Why I'm saying this? Because I mailed her and asked her, okay, if you like working with me, I'm at the stage when I'm still collecting testimonials, because we all entrepreneurs do, regardless of the moment in our journey. And she sent me something like, it's incredible, you are a superhero, and all this stuff. Apart from the way I feel about it, like, oh, it's so beautiful, oh, it's so great. These referrals are powerful because these referrals are infused with emotions and energy. so they perform far better. So when you think about referrals, when you deliver high-notch services, when you have amazing branding, then those referrals, energetically aligned when what we speak about, is incredible, and they really work marvels.
And it's so true, because I've had so many people tell me about, oh, I saw your I Date Money podcast. I saw, this and that, and oh, I love this. And I've seen some people like use the colors in my logo, in my brand. And, I'm like, oh, okay. So they really like those colors, and I really haven't seen those that way. And it kind of gives me a feeling. And when we think about that emotion, like how do you feel like someone like, oh, copycat sort of, right? And using your colors. And like, okay, when I was growing up, my mom would tell me that's a compliment. I'm like, well, I don't know. It's not being very creative on their end for them to use. I mean, because my colors are very unique. I mean, they stand out, and the combination is absolutely beautiful. And when you think about the referrals that they get, like it's so easy, like I Date Money, like, oh, okay, I can remember that. Like it's makes that impression. And when you think of searching that, like, like, oh, someone gave me a referral, but I can't remember exactly what it is. So having that catchy tune, having those repetitive graphics in the designs. And I know we talked about, I can't remember what those are called, those little icon things.
Motifs or totems.
Yeah, or motifs. Like choosing
stickers.
Yeah, that represent your brand, but continuously using them and showing up. Like, when we're sharing our message statement, we're sharing our
emojis.
Yeah. Yeah, those emojis. Thank you. I couldn't remember what they were called.
I was like,
walked in and starts talking to the dog. I don't know if you guys could hear him or not. I'm like, yeah, I'm live. Just it's okay. Come on in. Talking.
You have an amazing dog. I've seen your dog in the background. I thought, I love dogs.
Yeah. So, he just totally threw me off.
No, you're good.
But yeah, so I love that perspective of like, I get to remember because, and then, oh, I have a referral for you, and this is how I'm going to remember. And your name starts to be connected with that brand, and people automatically will say that. I mean, because how many Lisas are there in the world, right? But there's only one I Date Money, so it's awesome that gets to be my brand, my logo, my design. And we all know that it's this beautiful neon pink and green with that money color with that black, and then the palm trees, which, because I love the beach. So Sarah is a freaking genius when it comes to putting all those pieces together. And all I said to her was, Sarah, here's what we got, here's what you want. And those are music to her ears. Any creator, any graphic designer, do what you want. And then remember what you said to me was like, I'm so relieved that you said do what you want.
Well, I mean, okay,
so
let's back it up here, Lisa. it was do what you want, but here's the thing. It's like, obviously I'm going to ask questions. Obviously I asked Lisa, like, I was like, what are you hoping to see here? And she's like, well, I really like the beach, and Florida is like, there's a big story of like Florida and all of that goes behind the brand. And I'm like, okay. And she's like, the spa and like super chill and relax. I'm like, okay, Lisa, so what do? I'm like, magic, right? Thinking. And I gave her what she had articulated to me. I had given her tranquil, spa, soft, muted tones, relaxed, beautiful. And then I was like, but this isn't like, I know. I'm like, I know Lisa. I've had several calls with her. I've been on, coaching calls, all the things. I'm like, Lisa's loud. She's got some fire to her, she's fun, right? And I'm like, what's another angle here that we could bring the Florida messaging, like the Florida story into, and not the messaging, the story and the background and all the things. And I'm like, well, like Miami Beach. I'm like, that's loud, that's fun, that's sexy. Like there's a little bit of danger in that, but like, she's talking about the dating game, and I'm like, well, you're in Miami, like there's all these dudes, and like you're trying to see which one you like and which club you want to go to, and like I was like, this is like so fun. So then I did that, and I remember looking at it, I'm like, oh, she's either gonna love it or she's gonna totally hate it. It's like, there's no in between here, right? I was so in love with it, and I was like so like in on it, and then I showed her, and I was like, okay, so here's what you first asked for. And it was like soft and muted. And we gave them Miami Beach. And like to my surprise and like all the things, I was like, she picked Miami Beach. So anyways, that's the story behind I Date Money.
Yeah,
So,
and there was an extensive questionnaire form that I got to share, so that would help you get the focus, and it was really helpful for me to answer those questions because I never really explored that about branding and graphics and stuff. Like I said, I literally took a course in August of 20, and it was just like, let's just slap this thing on here and here. And all I knew was I liked the beach. And it's just like, so everything I did had a beach theme, it had some water running through it, but they were just stock photos and it wasn't anything.
yeah.
And it's just funny because now when I go to drop like like a story or whatever, if I share one of my testimonies, it's like, what picture do I want to put with this? Do I want a picture of me? Like what do I want to add to show my brand in there? And it's just like starting to wear like some of the things like that help bring in the brand and like representing that brand and like being at the beach when I go live or like having like showing my yard with the palm trees in there, and it's just like, yeah, this is the vibe, and it's so magical. It helps really make it pop. So as we end here, what is one thing that this is a surprise for both of you, so
Oh gosh.
but I do this a lot on my podcast, and I love doing this. It'll be easy for you. If you could give any advice to our new entrepreneurs out there, to somebody who doesn't really have a brand, who's been doing it themselves, who's afraid to invest, but knows that when they invest, that they will just have a brand that will attract their ideal client, that will help them get to the next level, what would you say to them? We'll go with you first, Sarah.
Okay. So are you saying they're not quite ready to invest yet, but how they can kind of get to that point of investing? Is that
what advice would you give to them?
Yeah. Guys, there's a lot of resources available on social media, LinkedIn, YouTube. I mean, you name it, pick your platform and find something that hits for you, something that resonates, something that you feel connected to in the sense of a learning, right? There's absolutely no shame. There's no harm in getting a baseline of understanding before you start investing and shopping and looking at these things. Number one, you're going to be able to speak the language better. You're going to be able to ask better questions. You're going to just have a better understanding of what you're shopping for, what you're looking for. And that goes for anything: branding, finances, AI, coaching. I mean, you name it, that goes across the industry, right? Informed buyers. But pick something and stick with it. Try it. Actually implement, because there's no 100% correct way to do anything. There are multiple ways to get there. However, when you try to do it all, you're going to do none of it. It's going to get muddy. It's going to get convoluted, and you're going to feel that overwhelm, right? So pick one methodology, one style, one way of doing things, and just run with that. Sit down, give yourself 90 days. Like, honestly, give yourself 90 days, learn the best you can, and then jump on a call with someone like myself or someone like Betty or anyone else out there who does branding, right? We can absolutely point you in the direction of, this is going to be number one. This is step number one. We're not going to sell you a $10,000 branding thing if a $10,000 branding thing isn't what's going to help you in that moment. We're going to give you step one, right? Which might just be another resource. It might be a small little package to get you started. It might be that little logo that you're looking for, whatever that might be. But have a conversation with someone who's a couple steps ahead there, and get some guidance. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But if you can bring them data, it'll help them that much more. Does that answer the question, Lisa?
Yes, it does. Thank you, Sarah.
Betty's nodding along. I'm like, okay, maybe that works.
Betty, what advice would you give?
I don't know if it's an advice, but I would like to ask your audience for one single little baby thing, okay? Please, 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 when you're using ChatGPT to generate your text, at least freaking read it. Okay, so this is just the ask. And for the advice, AI is growing, so use more of AI. Learn AI. There are hundreds of tools that you can play with, explore, find out. Most of them are initially free. There is a trial period or anything like that. Just try, play with it, have fun with it. But please, for God's sake, read what you're posting.
Good advice.
Good advice.
Very good advice.
Great
Yeah.
advice. Yeah.
Yeah. It's fun. I like to use chat for generating titles for things. And yeah, if you're going to use it to generate copy, please read it. Great advice. Because I imagine chat can create images for you too, right? And I don't know, I've never tried that, but that might be
Yes
something.
and no. You use
Yeah.
DALL-E then. It's within ChatGPT paid version.
Oh,
Just
cool. All right. Well, thank you so much, ladies, for hanging out, for spending time with us, for sharing your expertise. For those of you watching live in the Facebook group, check the comments. There's going to be links for Betty and Sarah for you to connect with them. And there'll be a link to the Money Talks, I Date Money Presents Money Talks on the YouTube channel. So you can watch the replay, you can share it. If you want to find out more about graphics, brand, logos, Betty and Sarah are your ladies. And so remember, this is an investment, this is an asset, because it doesn't matter how much money you have, it's what you do with it.